Now that we have dispensed with the false and superstitious notion of an eternal hell where your soul, or rather actually your spirit, would go for eternity, now that we've dispensed with this and unveiled it for the false and superstitious notion, is really, how could a spirit burn for any length of time? We will continue to examine the matrix of deception, the false reality, this false construct, this matrix of deception, the same concept of the cave to Plato, matrix as a false reality, and extricating ourselves, emancipating ourselves through the path of sovereignty. In this quest for sovereignty, there are 4 types of rulership that we must establish. Rulership of the inner world, rulership of the outer world, royal power in the outer world, and royal power in the inner world. Now, this requires hard work, mental reflection, and magical prowess to obtain any degree, any modicum of success in rulership. Now, and I want to dispel this notion right off the bat. Perhaps there are people drawn to the study of magic thinking that this is an easy way out. Wrong, oh so wrong. I can think of at least 8 subdisciplines, and all 8 of these subdisciplines fall under the term the Octovium, Latin for 8, a study of 8, which includes mathematics, philosophy, alchemy, ethics, chemistry. There are 8. And that is what really is the basis for the study of magic, which prepares the proper mental framework for an adept. But I'm going to talk about these 4 areas of sovereignty: rulership of the inner world, of the outer world, royal power in the outer world, and royal power in the inner world. This is the ability to effect change in your life, emancipation through sovereignty. And the path of organized religion is essentially a path of submission. No, this involves power. This involves your ascension and freedom from this false matrix, from this reality of deception. This involves you coming out of the cave and seeing reality for what it is and ascending to harmonic universe number 2. Please hit the subscribe button, because humans are but machines. However, we have the potential to become gods, to touch the divine aspect, our I am presence that is within, and that is our Atman, our true self. Now, the first aspect that a human has to change is their inner world. The typical Terran has been taught, or rather acquired, a series of randomly assorted thoughts, notions, and behaviors, most of which either actively hinder them or at best lull them into a sleep-like state. These stultifying forces mainly group themselves into forces that oppose the body, the mind, the emotions, and the will. Each of these must be overcome. The forces that oppose the body are those things which shorten life, remove energy, or dull the senses. Recreational drugs, legal or illegal, fall into this category, as does all of fast food. Your body is your temple. The Most High dwells in temples not made with human hands. That is your body. So kids, just like the sign at the post office says, stay off the grass, leave recreational drugs alone. They're not even recreational drugs, they're lethal drugs. Moving on to establishing sovereignty within the inner world, certain cultural attitudes, such as the forces that make many young women anorexic, or certain people with an entitled mentality, are likewise of such a nature. The environmental factors that may surround people, from toxic waste to certain types of fluorescent lighting, also can weaken. The initiate discovers these factors by life analysis and removes them from his or her life. In their place, he or she will adopt a training program to make the body do what he or she wishes. The best sort of training is one that either increases self-defense, such as the martial arts, or grace, such as dance. The forces that oppose the mind are those habits of non-thinking that we have adopted, believing them to be thought. We read the newspapers, not so much anymore, but perhaps you have a certain social media that you engage in that saps your mental strength. Watching TV, surfing the net, learning what to run through our minds in imitation of thought, being a consumer rather than a creator of thought. The initiate begins by limiting his media input and by looking for media which challenge his or her existing thinking. Thus, the liberal buys a conservative newspaper. The paranormal buff looks for the skeptical inquirer, and so forth. Learning how to entertain an opposite thought to that which you typically hold or are familiar or comfortable with. The second step is thought training itself, learning to concentrate, learning to have certain thoughts at certain times of day, and above all, increasing memory. The forces that oppose the emotions are those habits of feeling generally created by external sources for economic reasons. We love to cry, laugh, or be scared at movies for which we will pay good money. Learning not to cry, laugh, or be scared at any media presentation is a beginning. The initiate on the path to sovereignty has to overcome those phobias: fear of flying, fear of dogs, fear of flying dogs, sleeping in cemeteries at night, that hinder him or her. She or he learns to invoke certain emotional states by careful self-knowledge and control of symbol systems. The average human being follows his or her emotions. For the initiate on the path to sovereignty, emotions follow him or her. You are master of your emotions. The forces that oppose the will are those habits of blind obedience to external symbols and signals. The initiate on the path to sovereignty begins his or her quest not only by rejecting sentimental attachments to cultural norms, which most non-thinking people call good, but by actively making fun of such attachments in symbolic ways, such as a black mass or a black cedar or eating beef if you're raised a Hindu, and so on and so forth. This antinomian stance is no different than the stances that a typical rebel might take. However, this is controlled opposition and controlled demolition in the way that it strips you of all of your sacred cows and you eat them. However, this draws a lot of criticism from those in your immediate surroundings, your family and other members of the public. So it is a reminder to the sleepers that they could awaken, and such reminders are always painful, and thus they will be resentful when they see you as the Lone Star Maverick on your path to emancipation and self-sovereignty. Now, I want to end this first installment of this self-sovereignty with a gentle reminder for those on this path of emancipation and self-sovereignty, which is realized through ascension. We often forget how painful the light was to our eyes when we first left the cave. After the initiate, after the aspirant has broken with the symbol systems that teach obedience, he or she must create his or her own cosmology. You must establish your I am presence and your connection with your own higher self. Each starseed has their own particular corner of the galaxy and planets where they have a complete cosmology already established if you but search. It is at this point when a unified, coherent picture of the universe begins to emerge from the four areas of body, mind, emotions, and will that the initiate has first taste of rulership of the inner world. Rulership of the inner world means a sense of reality and purpose in what one does. We have all had those moments of power, of knowing that we are alive and that the world is meaningful. They are rare moments, and usually we attribute them to an external trigger, perhaps even a mysterious or divine source. When we discover that we can have those moments at will, then we have begun the lifelong task of rulership of the inner world. The magical name of this task is the quest for meaning. Please hit the subscribe button and leave this video a thumbs up, as it indicates to the algorithm that we are all on a quest for meaning and a path to emancipation and sovereignty. Namaste, Namaskaram.